like it does feel like that's the case where everybody, whether it's any glaze company or pottery company, nobody's reinventing the wheel. It seems there may be new products come out or new collaborations, but nothing incredibly innovative. I don't want to say innovative in like a negative way, but I think you know what I mean.
Right. It's kind of very few. It's very incremental steps on new
Yes.
stuff. It's just kind of
Hmm.
tweaking. We're
Yeah.
tweaking.
I mean,
Yeah.
since the electric sectional kiln and the electric wheel, maybe we haven't advanced terribly far.
Right. But have we needed to?
I think so.
And that's
I
kind of
was
the thing.
talking I was talking with somebody the other day about how pottery seems to be like the industry itself seems to be a lot like the craft where it's like a slow build, like a lot's happening in there, but it does seem to take us time to catch up to the rest of what other industries are doing as far as like, I don't know, tech or marketing or
Right. Right. But I
hmm,
mean, I think a lot of that is it comes down to budget. Like,
true.
what's your R&D fund look like?
Yeah, you're
You know,
completely right.
and then for Speedball, like how big is your company? Not a lot of people. So it's like, okay, well, limited budget, not a big staff. What do you focus on? So
Well, how big is Speedball? Because I know the people I connect with, but behind the scenes, what does that
behind the
look like?
scenes, it's a little over 100 employees, I think, in any given time, like 113 or so, 120, somewhere around there. Kind of fluctuates. And then you have those who work, we'll just say, maybe purely for ceramics. Like it's not a lot,
Okay,
not a lot. It's like I think maybe, and I don't even think I think I might be the only like purely ceramic focus in the company.
really?
Everybody else that helps make ceramics happen are doing multiple things throughout Speedball. So I am just the manager for ceramics, but I think I'm the only one that's strictly dedicated. Like you will focus on ceramics, but like the guy who builds the wheels. Some days he might be building wheels. Some days he's on out on the production floor helping with other products. Like it's kind of interesting, Like
Hmm.
we have our chemist, but he makes more than just ceramic glazes. He's got to make the inks. He's got to do all those innovations and those improvements. So it's just a matter of when he has the time to focus on ceramics. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting how because we're more than just like ceramics is just one of the divisions of Speedball. It's so like our major competitors who might be just purely they're dealing with ceramics, whether it's glazes, wheels, kilns, that's what they're doing. Speedball is a little different.
Yeah, you have a few different pots in the fire.
Yep. But it's fun. Like I always tell people, it's like working in an artist candy store. It's like you get a little bit of everything that you can work with and experiment with and have fun. So it's been good. It's been good.
And I've seen, I mean, in just individual artists, I've seen the greatest, like the most that happens in a really positive way is when you start blending and taking from here and taking from here and putting it together. And I think this is a really good segue into who you are and what you do because you blend graphic design and clay in a way that I've never seen anybody else before. And I know we skipped completely through the introduction part of the start of this segment, so I think we'll come back and do that now. We've gotten a little bit of your title from that intro there, your product marketing for Speedball Art, specifically the ceramics division, but you've also been a lieutenant colonel, retired military, Black Hawk mechanic and pilot. Is
Yep.
that right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And graphic designer and studio potter. I think that
Yeah.
you've had got a very storied journey through the military and now into the art realm. And I'm personally pretty interested to hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Where to begin, man? Like it was started off, I'll just pick it up in, I guess, college, right? Just kind of was thinking of graphic design. I was really interested in graphic design. Started having fun with like the first iteration of Photoshop. If I want to date myself there,
Hmm?
and just fell in love with it. Like, it was just really cool. And then, I went to Florida State University for my undergrad, and big art school there. So it was all about the football. You had to do what you had to do for
Oh, yeah.
anything not centered around football or partying at the time. It was like, yeah, just doing the graphic design. I had actually got a little frustrated, funny enough, when we were talking about technology earlier, like how technology, in my opinion, was leveling the playing field as graphic
Sure.
designers. Because you had a lot of people who weren't doing so well in like other majors, but I was like, hey, I got to graduate in something. So I'm going to be an art major and I'm going to be a graphic designer. You're like, half the classroom, we're all considered ourselves artists, pure artists, and the other half is trying to save their college career. And within like a month, we're doing the same level of work. And it's like, oh
Mm.
man, this is not good. So me, at the time, my understanding of everything, I kind of started backing away from the technology and went back to kind of what my strengths were, focusing on like the studio art type stuff, drawing, photography, stuff like that. Like stuff that would, and that was before digital photography. So we're still in black rooms developing all this stuff. So I could still, in my opinion, be one of the top students in the class. And I was really focused on that back then. So yeah, I kind of shied away. I did enough to get the graphic design degree, but
Okay.
I didn't do anything extra classes kind of related to it outside of photography. But it was like, no, I'm gonna start doing other stuff. I just kind of need a break from this. I want to get back into drawing, get back into. I did monoprint, things like that, and then they told me like, hey, you got to figure something else out. I took. I won't get into the eaches of it, but I ended up in the pottery class, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'll take pottery. I think I was taking bowling at the same time, just to kind of start off with. You got to
My
get.
school offered a bowling class, and I remember wanting to take it, like it being kind of a thing I was interested in.
It was a fun A. It was a fun A. I ain't gonna lie. But I took wheel throwing, and I was like, all right, I'll take this class. I just kind of went into it with the same mentality I went into every other class, kind of a little bit cocky,
Mm.
just like, hey, because I grew up in an art house. So family, my parents nurtured the art in all of us. So I'm used to kind of picking up art techniques really quickly and being like, top 1 or 3 in the class and stuff like that.
Okay.
Was not the case with the pottery. So I took wheel throwing one and it kicked my butt. Like usually within like that first week, I usually got it down pretty good, whatever the medium was.
Okay.
And yeah, I just remember the teacher just kind of just like, all right, well, clearly you're not here for the clay. Your focus is elsewhere. He was like, you just kind of hang out because the way they taught it there is you couldn't get to the wheel until you could wedge a proper ball of clay. So you wedge a ball of clay, they cut it into fours that they found in the air bubbles. Back to wedging, back to wedging.
Back to
So
that's
after
pretty
three
hard.
hours, say after 3 hours of trying to wedge a ball of clay, because there were 3 hour classes back then, it was like,
Yeah.
yep, you're not going to the wheel today. So I was the only student who didn't get on the wheel that day. I was half of the next class, still trying to wedge, and then the teacher finally just felt pity on me. It was like, just go to the wheel. Yeah. So finally, I get to go to the wheel in the back corner of the room, the wheel nobody wanted, and centering. You weren't allowed to open your clay until the teacher said you had centered it enough to open and go on to the next step. Yeah, we weren't centering.
It seems like this teacher had a lot of roadblocks in this class.
I mean, hey, that's he got us there. That was
Yeah.
it. He's like, if you can do these two things, everything else is easy. And like I said, I'm pretty sure my personality and my attitude wasn't quite right for teaching, or being receptive to teaching. I do know that I was pretty bad as an art student. I ain't gonna lie, but that was the beginning probably that was the early stages of my humbling as an artist was in that pottery class because it was the first one that slowed me down. He's like, you can't do this. Like I used to do huge 6 foot paintings in like an hour, and people are like,
Man.
oh, this is the greatest painting ever. It's all abstract and all that, but all that stuff kind of got into my head. Life drawing. That's like 10-minute clips, 5-minute clips, 30-second clips, and you just, now those pieces are in art shows and all this stuff. So now I'm like, yeah, well, this pottery thing, same thing. But yeah, beat me down pretty good.
What is it about ceramics that you think is the obstacle? Because I've encountered the same thing. I was relatively skilled in a lot of other art mediums when I went into college and was introduced to ceramics. But I took pottery and I did love it from the first moment, but I was so bad. And I'm sure, like, I've heard everybody, like, your first pots are some of the most atrocious things that will exist from your term as a potter. What is it about ceramics for you that you think is that there's some disconnect,
I think
at
a
least at
lot of
first?
well, for me, it was like the speed. Like
Hmm.
you can't just pick it up, And it was just exposure. I was never exposed to clay outside of like probably a project in elementary school that I can't remember. You make something for your
Oh, yeah.
parents. I made you this
Oh, yeah.
rabbit. Please display it, so for all to see.
My mom still has mine.
But yeah, I hadn't been exposed to it, but I'm exposed to drawing, I'm exposed to painting, like all these things throughout your normal school curriculum. And I think once you finally get, for me, once I got finally exposed to clay, it was just something so foreign, but it was also something that I had to slow down in,
Yeah.
because I was thinking, all right, man, this should happen quick. Every phase of it is like, I think every phase takes its own time to learn and to
Hmm.
not even really to master, because I'm still like, you'll never master this craft. Like, you'll just get better, if
I
you
hear you.
stay. But but I say that about any craft, like, but I'm like, especially for potters, like the day you think you have mastered pottery, I think is the day you need to walk away from your studio, because you're no longer learning.
It's one of the deepest rabbit holes that you can go down, because there
Yeah,
is a new tunnel every which way you turn, whether
yeah,
it's surface or firing or even the science behind it. It really is just a broad topic, and it's so much deeper or wider than I think anybody's aware of it when they first take their first pottery class.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, which way do you want to go? Which way do you want to go? There's always something you can learn about it. But that was for me, like just having to actually slow down. So it was the first time for me that my type A ego type got hurt a little bit, got bruised a little bit,
Mm.
kind of being the laughing stock in class, kind of thing. I wasn't used to that. So I spent an enormous amount of time in that studio. And it wasn't necessarily like, I'm just going to be a better potter. It was really just, I just can't suck at this that bad. Just never been this bad. And so just, I even joke with my friends. I was like, I used to have them pick me up out of the ceramics lab in my club clothes. Like I wouldn't even change clothes. Like pick me up on the way to the club in the ceramics lab. And then
And
once
would
we're
you be
done
like
with,
covered in clay?
yeah, do our thing. Well, that got me really good at not making a mess,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it would just, I got to the point where it'd only just be on my hands, could wash up, and we go, only white clay. Let's not play with any of the red or brown stuff, you know. And then I'd have them drop me back off after the club. Like, yep, drop me back off out to the lab. Because, I'd make a bunch of pieces, put it in the drying rack, go club and come back, pull it out of the drying rack, trim them up, be
Hmm.
ready, for that day's class. And then just doing that all the time, any free time I was in the lab. That's how I closed that gap, at least skill wise. And then once I actually used a piece that I made for the first time, that's when I was like, okay, all right, this is a kind of a cool art form. Like okay, everything okay. I can paint a picture, hang it on the wall, do a drawing on the wall, something like that. Take a photography, give it to you, but again, in state, put it on the wall or something for display. But I made this bowl, and I can eat out of this bowl, and I can continuously eat out of this bowl. I can, I'd make stuff for me and my friends. Like, hey, I made some mugs. Like, we're using the mugs, we're hanging out, we're being social with stuff I've made. Like, it's like, this is really cool. And then I think the love came when they asked me to teach it.
Okay.
After that first semester, like the end of the first semester, I went from like, don't worry about it, to like 3 months later, hey, do you want to teach this? Good thing, awesome, I get to teach it. Fell in love with it. Bad thing, mentally, I thought, okay, this is another art form I've conquered just like the rest. So all exploration at that point stopped, because I was even getting asked to put my stuff in gift shops and all this. And yeah. But the good thing is the love for clay was there back then at that point. So,
Okay. And so you were in undergrad, took a
yeah.
clay class, and it was just the first clay class. And then after which they asked you to teach?
Yeah, it was in between the first and the second class because I ended up taking pottery too. So I
Okay.
became an instructor, not for the university, but for the
Okay.
union center or whatever, just an extra class for students just to have a hobby. So I taught the hobby class,
Okay.
and I
Clay
thought, like I
does,
said, huh?
I was
Was
just going to say, clay does have a way of getting under your skin.
Yeah, like it was really cool. And then just teaching other people to learn and just do the same thing. Like it was just, and it was easier. I found it easy to teach actually. Like, and the fact that, I could have like 6 students or 8 students. I think it was like 8 wheels at the time. And I didn't have to watch everybody. I could just look at
Okay.
your wheel, look at your clay and say, hey, this is what you did right. This is what you did wrong. And just kind of, I was really, it was really fun. Like I said, I thought I got the teaching job because I was that good, but it really was. I didn't have an issue talking to people. They knew that.
Right.
It was like you're highly social and you're good enough at the basics to teach people how to make a cylinder. You can get people to a cylinder, you can get people to a bowl, and that's what we need. You know, and it was fun. And that's so I ended up graduating with that, still a graphic design emphasis in the major and everything, but graduated with a BS in studio art from
Hmm.
Florida State.
Okay.
And then,
What
yeah,
happens after college?
happens after college, moved back home because I had a really cool graphic design job that was lined up. So left everything, left Tallahassee, moved back home to my parents, and like, hey, I'll just do this job until I get back up on my feet, move out, everything will be cool. That job fell through. So now I'm
Mm.
upset. I'm like, man, I was actually working at Lowe's at the time in Tallahassee, which is actually a pretty awesome company to work for.
I've heard that.
So I was on track, to actually get into their management and stuff, but I couldn't turn down the graphic job. Was just, it was cool. It was a cool opportunity. I don't know if most people wouldn't have done that, but you know, everything happens for a reason. So
Sure.
yeah, I'm back home doing commission artwork on the side. My brother's now joining me. He's doing some artwork. So we're kind of doing little things like that, working at the Gap, working at Buffalo Wild Wings, just building up money and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then that's when 9/11 hit. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, okay. And I grew up a military brat. So I was an Air Force brat. Kind of always thought I'd join the military,
Okay.
but my parents were like, well, you're pretty good with this art thing. See where that takes you first. But yeah, after 9/11, I told my parents I was going in. Yeah, didn't think I'd do 20 years, but I was like, I'm going in. Just do my part. Help defend the nation. And get a little adventure going. And so I did that. Like yeah, that next week I was in the recruiting office. Like let's go. Like let's do this. I ended up being a Black Hawk mechanic first. So that was the
Okay.
first thing, enlisting, becoming a Black Hawk mechanic. Funny enough, right? You get your first tax return. I'm a young soldier doing my thing. First tax return, I bought a Creative Industries clay boss wheel.
Okay. So I can see the circle beginning to form.
Right, right. I was like, yeah, I was like, I need a pottery wheel. So that's the one I found. I was like, Creative Industries, clay boss, boom. Let's go.
Hold on. So before we jump farther down in this thread, what prompted the Blackhawk mechanic? Was that something that the recruiter suggested, or was there an interest where you got to choose a little bit?
Well, I got to choose a little bit. I was, watching movies and stuff like that. I think that's when Black Hawk Down came out. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to be the guy on the side of the aircraft, shooting the gun. Like, that's what I want, you know, somewhat. But I also was like, I also want to be the guy kicking down the doors, running around doing all this stuff. Because I really did. I was like, I want to do the craziest thing I can do for like 4 to 6 years, and then I'll get back out, come back, get back to being an artist, and do all that stuff. That was the plan. But my recruiter he was really smart. He was a really smart dude, and he was like, he looked at because I had the degree, he looked at my ASVAB scores from high school, and he's like, what do you want to do at the end of all of this? And I was like, well, it'd be
Mm.
kind of cool to be a pilot, and this and that. And so he was like, all right, if you eventually want to try to be a pilot, that's when he steered me to. He said, you're going to be a mechanic on any aircraft. He's like, I don't even care. He's like, because first he said air traffic controller. He did say that first. He's like, you're going to be an air traffic controller, so you can learn how to talk to pilots, and then when you become a pilot, you know how to talk to pilots.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, but I want to actually. I said, I want to get my hands dirty, man. I want to carry a gun. I want to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And he was like, all right, well, you can be a mechanic on any other airframes that we have in the Army. I don't care which one, just pick one. I'll let you do that. So, so I picked Black Hawk because of the movie.
Blackhawker was.
I was like, yeah, Black Hawk. I can do that thing, like I said. But I actually said crew chief. That's what it was. He said crew chief because I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't
Okay.
know. So I signed up to be a Black Hawk crew chief. Went through basic training. Yep, I'm gonna be a Black Hawk crew chief. Like this is awesome. Like I'm gonna learn how to shoot these big old guns, the whole time. And then after basic, you go to what's called AIT back then, advanced individual training, where you actually learn your job for the
Okay.
Army. And so I'm in the crew chief school. I'm like, here we go, day one, let's do it. And they're like, line up to get your toolbox. I was like, toolbox? What do I need what do I need a toolbox for? And they're like, you're here to learn how to fix the Black Hawk. I was like, what do you mean fix it? I'm here to shoot the guns, man. They was like, no, that's not your job.
You're mistaken.
Your job is to fix them. And I was like, oh, I wasn't really very mechanically inclined. So, and now I'm gonna fix this multi-million-dollar aircraft like with a toolbox. Like you got to be kidding me. But it was fun. It was fun. But
But
it turns out you have to be a mechanic first to become the crew chief.
okay. So they were putting you through the paces.
Yeah, you got to earn the right to be a crew chief. Like you just don't come straight in. Like you
Hmm.
got to learn how to fix the aircraft first. So it makes sense. So
Yeah. If you're flying it or at the head of the crew and something goes wrong, it's probably a good idea to know how to or who to
yeah,
delegate it to fix it.
it helps knowing how to fix the thing. So that was cool. So taught me a lot, learned a lot, and then eventually, fast forward to like 3 years later, I became a pilot. So that was cool. So it did actually work out. Back to my recruiter saying, "Do it this
Okay.
way." and then it'll be easier. And as he said it'll be easier for you to be a pilot, this way, this way. So he was either air traffic controller or be a mechanic.
Okay.
So he wasn't lying about that. And so it actually did work out. So when I did submit to become an officer and become a pilot, it was accepted pretty easily. So it's like cool.
So does that put you at 4 years, 5 years into the service at
Yeah,
this point?
it was like 4 years, 4.5 years
Okay.
when I became a pilot.
How
Still
long
have
did you stay piloting?
that was the rest of my career. So that career, and I ended up doing like 21 years. So
That's a
the
good
rest
term.
of the time I was a pilot, and it was funny. It was like every time. So most military installations, well, a lot of them have art studios. Every time I move somewhere, I go check out the art studio. A lot of times they had ceramics, so I'd always somehow tie into the ceramic studio at the local installations, and sometimes teach if I could a class or two, because you always have like a lull before your actual job kicks in, where
Hmm.
you're somewhere new. They give you like a warm start before you really get going. So doing those warm starts, I always tied into the ceramic community best I could. Usually end up being the instructor because it was like we don't have any. So I was like, okay, I can teach for like a week, like a month. I can get you for like a month before I actually start my job. And so that was always fun, and still always had the wheels and everywhere we went, but not consistently doing pottery because you got the deployments, you got the training, we got all this. So it was just something fun to just do every now and again. And then go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's cool that they have art programs within the military that you can plug into like that. I think I learned that through Clay King when I was a sales rep and answering calls. We would get a surprising amount of military bases calling and ordering glazes and clay and pottery materials. It's
Yeah.
like, I have never considered that this would be an outlet that would exist in military bases. But when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that there does need to be recreational outlets aside from, I don't know,
Oh,
that relate to what people's interests are.
it definitely has untapped potential.
Hmm.
So something that's always been on my mind to kind of circle back and see what we can do. I'm in a kind of a cool position now to do a lot more with that. So we'll
Yeah,
see,
I'd say
we'll
so.
see what happens over the next couple of years. But yeah, it was like so just rolling through and getting promotions, and eventually was a captain, senior captain at the time, and to continue to go forward, not necessarily to make major, but to make lieutenant colonel. They like you to have a master's degree in something. The beauty of
Okay.
the Army is they don't care. That's how I became a pilot. The Army didn't care that my degree was in art. That's a whole nother fun stories in flight school, and they figured that out. I was an art major, flying around helicopters. You know,
Do they
it's
pick
not
the
that.
artists out to do the paintings on the side?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so real quick on that one. So when I became a commander, and I had 10 Blackhawks assigned to me, it was funny. I was in Iraq at the time, and I had the guy point out all 10 of my aircraft. I was like, just point them out to me. And he pointed them out to me. That night, I went home, made some giant stencils, and the next morning, I repainted all my aircraft.
Do they let you paint? Do they let you customize it how you want to?
In certain spots, there's certain areas on the Blackhawk where we can tag it to personalize it.
Okay.
I did one of those ask forgiveness instead of permission kind of things, but it was cool. They didn't make me redo it.
That's good.
So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun doing it. I mean, my soldiers, they understood, okay, hey, I'm about to go out here and do this. This is kind of the logos and stuff like that I want to put on the aircraft to make it very recognizable when we land anywhere. It's us versus any other company. So that was a lot of fun.
What was one of the logos you used?
We had a spade, symbol of a spade, like on a card, but it had the Superman S in the side of it, inside of it. So that was it, that spade logo. So that was on the engine cowlings. So on the side of the
Mm-hmm.
Black Hawk, and then on the nose of the Black Hawk, it was a Spartan shield with wings coming out of the shield. So we were the Spartans, and
That
the
sounds cool.
Superman S was a legacy symbol from long before I became the commander of the unit. So I was like, that will stay. The Superman S
Okay.
has to stay somewhere in the symbology of the units. And I let the guys pick it. They were like, yeah, we want to be the Spartans. Yeah, I just told them, I was like, hey, as an art major, once you tell me what our name is, I'm going full bore. And it was cool because I had two other artists in that unit, very talented guys. So the three of us came together and designed all the stuff, and then made all the stencils and art. I always say art is so tied into the military is crazy. So it was kind of easy for, I think, for somebody like myself to kind of use those things from the art world to boost morale and,
Hmm.
all that stuff. So
It's something that at least me personally, have never considered how ingrained art is into the branches of the military. Although from this perspective, even just talking to you, you can kind of looking back and see, even from somebody with no military experience, I can see whether it's like tagged on the side of an aircraft or all these different parts of like either media or commercials. Like there are instances where art is very visible when you know where to look and how it's presented within that context. And it's cool to hear that it's encouraged and given as an outlet
yeah,
in those realms.
that was always my thing. I was like, all right, so if we want to build an identity, we got to have a symbol to rally behind because it's
Mhm.
just easy to do that. So it's like together we're going to make what that symbol means. It's either going to be mean something bad or it's going to mean something good. But we're going to do this together as a group of soldiers. And yeah, that symbol ended up meaning something pretty cool.
That's the Spartan shield with the wings.
The Spartan shield with the wings, the spade with the Superman S on the inside. It was pretty fun. We had little decals made. Actually, my wife used to make the decals back home and she'd ship them to us, different color schemes, and they became collector's items. And so every shipment, I got a new shipment every month, and we're tagging things everywhere. I think the coolest is I was coming home for R&R. Back then, we used to fly through different countries, but this particular stop was in Ireland, and I had a little patch on that had a mini version of that symbol, the spade with the Superman S. And the
Uh-huh.
flight attendant or the guy that was like helping us get around the airport in the secure spots and then getting back to the plane and stuff, and he noticed the symbol on my uniform and a couple of my soldiers. He's like, "Hey, can I show you something?" I was like, "Cool." Opens up his planner and he has
Uh-huh.
two of my stickers in his planner as a
Whoa.
collector's item. And he
How
was
did he
like,
get those?
so other soldiers in my organization going back and forth between America and Iraq, and they were just handing them out. That's what we would do. We just hand them out. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I got these two, and I'm like, that's crazy. I was like, I'm actually commander of that unit. This is that. So me being a commander, I had the coolest, most rare versions of the stickers. So I was
Uh-huh.
like, here you go, man. Like put this in there, and it was pretty cool to see that. We
What a
we
small
kept
world.
yeah, yeah, but it's just the power. It's not necessarily the symbol; it's what that symbol ended up representing. So
Well, and that, I mean,
it's
even in what you do now with product marketing, that is essentially like there are a lot of crossovers there with just like recognizable symbols and how
yep,
people identify with them or relate to them.
yeah, it's your
And
brand.
yeah, it really is.
I was playing around with those kind of ideas even back then. And I met another artist in a random location one day. We just got to talking, and he'd been doing the exact same thing his entire career. We're both
Hmm.
captains, and he was like, "Yeah, every unit I go in, I fix the graphics, I fix the symbology, because I would too. As a graphic designer, I go clean it up.
Hmm.
Like, hey, what is all?" And he was doing the same thing, same levels of success as we kind of talked stories and stuff. So it was really
Oh, it's
cool.
so interesting. And hearing you talk about using the stencil to mark your Blackhawks, like you can see how even back then relates to what you're doing now with all of the graphic work that you put on your pots.
Yeah, yeah. Every pot gets the smiley face on the bottom. Like
Hmm.
it's the first
What
thing.
is? I've been meaning to ask you, what is the smiley face? How did that come about? And does it mean anything to you?
Actually, yeah, it means quite a bit. So that logo came about from a class assignment while I was getting my master's in
Okay.
ceramics. So yeah, so I ended up, like I said, the army was like, if you want to progress, you need to get a master's. So I was like, can I get it in ceramics? And again, they're like, we don't care, just get a master's. So I was like, all right. Well, I knew like I couldn't be present at the university, and especially in ceramics, I was like, they usually want you to be a part of the faculty once you get into the master's program, some kind of way. You're doing something there present,
Hmm.
and I couldn't do it because I knew as an officer we were going to be moving every 1 to 2 years. We were moving, so I was like, can't do it. So I was like, I'm going to take 30 minutes and I'm just going to call universities and see if I can find one that'll let me do a master's program and not be present whatsoever. I was like, I've
That
never heard
feels like a hard ask.
it. Yeah. But I was like, I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to do this.
Okay.
One of the beauties of the Army or in any military branch is they have programs that you can get your master's degree. All kinds of programs, all kinds of disciplines. But I was like, I really, clearly anything art is not on that list. But you, you can do it if you can find it. right? So I was like, I'm just gonna give myself 30 minutes. I'm sitting in Kansas already.
Mm.
Let's just see. I'm just gonna start closest university to me, and I'm just gonna start going out.
Okay.
Because I was like, they may want me to go there, because I was stationed in Kansas at the time for 1 year. So I was like, all right, here we go. Let's try to find it. And the second phone call I made was to Fort Hays State University. I got the actual Linda Ganstrom, the professor, on the phone, which
Ah,
is weird because she says she never answers that phone, but she answered it. And I was like, hey, my name is Delvin Goode. I'm an officer in the Army and I want to get a master's in ceramics, but I can't be at the university, you know.
hold on. So you take 30 minutes out of your day, and on your second phone call, you get somebody who doesn't normally answer the phone call that agrees to take you on as a remote ceramic student?
Because she was just piloting a program for that very thing,
What a twist of fate.
which was cool. Well, the first call I made was to KU, so Kansas University or University of Kansas, and that professor laughed when I told him what I wanted to do. But
Right.
then he told me to try to call Linda Ganstrom at Fort Hays State. He was like, try to call. He's like, I think they're trying to do something new there, and that was it. And I was like, okay. So I called, and then, like I said, Linda actually answered the phone, and no matter what I told her, after every sentence, she said submit. And I was like, well, I haven't done pottery since this thing. I don't have any. She's like, submit it. I was like, okay, well, this is, I had this whole speech in my head if somebody actually
Hmm.
wanted to hear it. And she was like, submit your resume, your portfolio. We'll see you in the fall. So that was cool.
That is really cool. Because, one, when you think about anytime I've ever considered a higher education or ceramic schools, that the option of like remote learning or offsite learning for ceramics in particular doesn't seem like it matches.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm,
we made it work. We made it
that's
work.
cool.
Like it was, I know this is a long way to get back to my logo, so I'll speed it up. But so yeah, I started the program. I loved it. Like it was how it was kind of structured. I'm now, this long into the military. That cocky young artist is now gone. Military professional is now here. Military started paying for the degree at first. So with that, that means all your bosses are kind of tied to how you're doing in
Okay.
school. Like they will know immediately if something
Little
goes bad. So
accountability.
yeah, so it's like I don't want to embarrass the army. I don't want to embarrass my boss. So I have to, do all I can to put everything into this program. And then I also was like, when I last time I walked away from ceramics, I thought I was all that and wasn't trying to learn. And I was, because it was a 4 hour drive from where I was at the time. So I would go to the university. I ended up going twice that first semester. So I met my peers who were in the program. And I think that was the best thing, meeting them at least that one time and seeing the level that I needed to try to get to really quick. Cause I was like, these are some serious artists. These are some serious potters.
Mm,
It's like, okay, it's not play here. Like this is real deal growth. This is a real ceramics program. So it was good. It was great for my growth. And, Linda is amazing at taking each individual student and guiding them to where they need to be to become the best artist they can be. So she ended up once I got enough, I hit up my thesis window. So once I came to the thesis window, and hey, you've done enough to get this degree, but you gotta fill up your extra credit hours. So some other professors were actually piloting remote programs as well.
okay.
So she was business. The business school has a couple of programs that they're letting happen distance learning, as we called it. So she's like, I want you to take visual media marketing and social media marketing. I was like, okay, sure, why not? Because she knew I'd already been using Illustrator and
Hmm.
Photoshop, stuff like that. And so that's when I started going that direction with the reels and all that stuff, because it was a part of that class. It was like, start using this, start using that. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm about 2 years out from getting this master's. I'm
Hmm.
still in the military kind of thing. Art's not keeping my lights on right now. I can kind of start playing around with different things, maybe build my brand now so that when I do eventually leave the army, like it's not starting from scratch from that point.
Right.
So I started playing around with how I branded my work and everything, and then that's when the smiley face came about. And that in particular job, it wasn't one of my best jobs at that time when that logo came about. It was actually for a particular assignment, so it was tough. It was really tough. But because I was a major at the time, so a very important position within that organization, second in command kind of stuff. So it's the boss, me, everybody else, and I got to be that conduit, right? So even though it was very tough, a lot of rough days, my soldiers used to always say, like, you're like the happiest guy we ever met. And I and I used to joke with them. I say, I'm probably the most angry guy you ever met, but you'll never know that. Like, that's not for you to know. Like, I got to make sure you have the best day that you have. So that smiley face is actually oval. It's not a circle on purpose because that
Okay.
oval represented the pressure I was under. And
Okay.
a lot of people say, well, he's winking. I like the wink. Well, it's like he's actually not winking. It's like he's got pretty much like a busted up eye, but he's still fighting. So that logo represents, like, regardless of what's going on, you still, you got to look at the good side of things. You got to keep a positive outlook. So I'm still smiling, still getting beat down, and then it wasn't the intent for that to be my logo. It really
Yeah.
wasn't. It was just for that particular, batch of work. But then it just stuck. It just resonated with what I was going through so much at the time. I was like, that's me. That represents D good art.
Well, it's a good quality of a leader is to be able to put on a good face despite the pressure and despite external everything that's happening. And it sounds like you were able to do that and then channel it in a way that helps other people like know who you are, even if they don't know the context or the story
Right.
behind why that is.
Yeah, it's a smiley face. Who doesn't like a smiley face, right?
But I
You
love
know?
hearing the story behind it because it adds a lot of depth into who you are as an artist and the things you create and the story that lies behind both of those things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it's
I
cool.
mean,
So it's like when I make my own work, I can't not put that on the bottom. Like, it has to go on first before I do any
hmm,
other decorations or anything. The face goes on first. And then we
face
go
goes
from
on first.
face goes
Okay.
on first. And then we go from there.
But that's interesting too because normally the signature is the last thing that goes on a pot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for you,
That's
it's
the
the other
first
way
thing.
around.
Yeah, that's the first thing I glaze on it.
Is that intentional because the process requires it, or is it because that's your choice?
I say both.
Okay,
Both. It's much easier. It's much easier if I go ahead and knock that out. Really, I'm
I
rough
get
on
that.
my pieces when I'm glazing. I'm rough on them. So that usually is that's I recess that because I put a foot on everything. So it's recessed regardless of what I do throughout that process. It's normally protected very few times. Well, that piece of the pot gets scratched or dinged or
Hmm.
whatever. So it's easier for me to put that on first. But now it's like a mental thing. Like, every time since I started doing that, I've had to put that on last. It just feels weird. It just feels out of place. Like, it should have already been on there. Like, my
So,
wife, she laughs because sometimes I'll be like, all right, I'll have my stencil kits and everything. I'm going out to the garage. I'm like, all right, about to go do some glazing. And then she'll hear me like, oh, she'll be like, what happened? I'm like, I didn't put the face on any of these. So then I got to stop and glaze the faces on before I can do
and go
anything
back and
else.
put them on.
It's like, I got to stop. Especially when I'm excited about a newer design or anything. It's like, oh, I can't wait to see if I can pull this design off. And then it's like, nope, got to put the face on.
Got to
Got
put
to
a
get it.
face on. Is there anything in your military or aviation experience within the military that influences how you work within the studio? Like, is this a process oriented, step by step discipline thing?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's like it used to be initially with the symbology and stuff that I put on my work, but I don't do a lot of heavy military related work. I kind of did at first when I was kind of figuring out like airbrushing techniques and stuff like that. It was a lot of military symbology on it. But I mean, because I would say it was like, well, it's that military discipline that keeps me. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I think clay gets you there. Pottery gets you there. Yeah, because it's just the process itself and the finish. The way I want the work to look when it's done
Mm-hmm.
forces me to take certain steps to get it there, and really like even just as simple as putting the face on there, like on the putting my logo on the bottom, like that process has continuously been refined throughout the years to make sure I make the best version of that I can. You know.
Well, to transition a little bit into the studio life, you talked just a second ago about the steps that you have to go through. And I mean, I'm using some of the mugs you made for me. And to be honest, I view these as like bits of art. I still have them in the studio and I'm just like, I'll use them occasionally only because I'm still in awe of them, but I
Right.
couldn't pass up the opportunity to use one today. Like, as
Appreciate it.
I approach a cup like this, and I always try to like reverse analyze how somebody's created the thing that they've done. And to be honest, I don't know where to begin in that process. Could you walk us through what starts first and then do you get all of these layers onto a piece?
Yeah, starts with the clay. Color of the clay is the first thing.
Okay.
So even though I don't do it as much anytime for the graphics I like to achieve, white clay bodies just make it the easiest. So because then you
Yeah.
already have that color available. So the clay body's white, you already have a great start. If not, it's just an extra step to add that color. Right. So I always start clay body first that I want to use, and then surface preparation slash shape. So simpler the shape, the better. Because I'm about to do a lot of crazy graphics and stencils. The more complex the shape, more complex the process of getting your final image. Unless you're, even if you're hand painting it, it's still going to be the same thing. If you're, glazing with brushes and stuff. So always in my mind, clay bodies first. The form comes second, I would say, and then the surface preparation. So the smoother the surfaces are on my work, the easier it is for the stencils to adhere and do their work. So
Makes
those are the
sense.
first three things I consider. And then second, I spend a lot of time like this in front of the computer.
Okay.
I don't do anything. Like I'm staring at the graphic. But let's say, for instance, because I do a lot of, well, we'll just talk about the one that you were holding, right? So I was like, all right, we have this Gollum. I was like, do I really want to try to draw Gollum myself? Can I find a cool image of Gollum somewhere? Because that's usually what I'll do, looking for clip art and stuff. But I've been
Okay.
really trying to like buy images from other artists, like digital artists, just to kind of pull that support back instead of just using my graphic design training and just stealing it like I can if I want to. But so I've been having fun doing that, like actually finding artists who've taken the time to draw these great images and stuff. So I found that one. But they're not designing those for stencils on pottery.
Right.
So
There's still probably more
once I
work that has to go into it.
yeah, so once I saw that graphic, I was like, okay, that's the graphic that's going on there, right? Got to do that some kind of way. And so now it's visually looking at it and thinking. Then I fast forward to the end. What do I want this thing to look like in the end? And how do I walk those steps back? So if I wanted to have that black to green fade with the vine graphics in the background with Gollum sitting right there, what's the process of that? And then I do the graphics, the stencils based on that. And then
Okay.
from there, I reverse it once I think I've designed the stencils. Then I reverse it and say, okay, this goes on first. Then I'm going to glaze this color. Do I need to block then, or is it okay to stay? So with Gollum, it was like, okay, I want the white of the clay body to show through, but I want him in black. So I
Mm-hmm.
need to block off the mud, and I'm gonna brush this or airbrush it. And so it just kind of depends. Like I wanted it to be I airbrush because I like that flat decal looking feel to it. I like people thinking that the work is mass produced. I don't know why. Probably because of my graphic design background, but I like it to look like this was something made in a factory. But the best way to do that in my opinion, is airbrush because then you can get that super thin kind of feel to it
Mm-hmm.
for this particular piece. That's the look I wanted.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, mask it off to where I apply the black so I can get Gollum's shape. Then from there, I need to mask him off. Once Gollum's masked off, now I start building up the outside graphics. And then it's a matter of like for this one, okay, I need to lay those vines down first, airbrush some green. And that's the cool thing about airbrushing is you can take one color and have multiple shades. So then it's just a matter of just thickness. So after a certain amount of layers, I can pull off that masking for the vines and stuff.
Potters, if you've ever fought with centering, you know it's the make or break moment at the wheel. That's why I'm really excited about Speedball's brand new Boss Rib pottery centering tools. They're designed to take the fight out of centering, so instead of wrestling your clay, you can get straight to making. Speedball has been innovating for artists for over 100 years. Glazes, wheels, underglazes, and now these new line of tools that can change your studio workflow. And the only place you'll be able to get it when it launches this September is clayking.com, your one-stop pottery shop for Speedball's entire catalog. If you're listening before September 2025, go visit and follow Clay King and Speedball because you don't want to miss the launch date. And if you're listening after September 25, head over to Clay King right now because the Boss Ribs are going to change the game for you. So remember, head to clayking.com today to shop Speedball's full line of tools, glazes, wheels, and more, and get ready for the Boss Ribs. Okay, so we are back after a little hiccup with some technical difficulties and transitioning from Delvin Goode's history from the military and going into now his tenure at Speedball Art. Del, you've had this history of lieutenant colonel, military, Black Hawk mechanic into pilot, and you've retired and now transitioned into studio potter and product marketer for Speedball. Can you talk about that transition and what has looked like so far?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's been a great ride. Like it definitely wasn't something that I saw coming, after 20 plus years in the military, flying helicopters and all that fun stuff. And then, you know, going into I wanted to do something art related. It was always kind of a dream when I retire. Like, and so that's when I went to pursue the master's because I was going to teach. I was like, that's the thing I think I'll do at the collegiate level. So I'll get the master's in ceramics and kind of work that. And I was steering towards that the whole time. But I started working with Speedball um, January 2020, actually. So the infamous year, right? So started working started started working with Speedball then. And that's when I was contacted about, potential sponsorship, things of that nature. So it was really cool just kind of working with them behind the scenes on my work and just kind of going through that whole what does it mean to be a sponsored artist by Speedball. And this is really cool because, have my clay boss wheels forever and a day. So that's kind of how it started from that outreach from online, from Instagram, working with them a little bit more product wise. And then as events came up or just different things with different art organizations, they reach out to me as like, hey, you want to represent Speedball for this event? Do you want to represent Speedball for this event? And it was like, of course, I'll represent, so I'm doing wheel demos, underglazing demos. It was just a lot of fun. And I was like, this is a really cool company. These people actually care about artists. Like, so it was great. And then I think it was Cincinnati and Sika is when I was invited out to be a part of the booth,
Okay.
which was really cool. Just kind of helping the Speedball team there. And then they flew me out for the commercial as well, the Together We Make commercial,
Yes.
which was really awesome. And then so I got to be the ceramic representative of that commercial. And when I was there, actually at Speedball, that's when I was like, this would be a cool place to work for when I retired. And it was funny. I wanted the marketing job. I was like, it'd be really cool to do some marketing and stuff like that for Speedball. Cause I took that right before my thesis and took marketing classes. And that was just a lot of fun. So I was like really, really into it, like social media marketing and things of that nature. And then they were like, no, actually, we're going to give you ceramics. You come work for us. And I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. So that was the transition from there. I think I put my retirement in shortly after that. I already knew I was kind of like towards the end of my military career. And opportunity like that to work a job like this, I was like, yeah, I can't pass that up. Like we gotta see how this turns out.
And you do product marketing within ceramics now, right? So is that how you jumped into it, or is your day to day look a little different than strict marketing?
Yeah, it's a lot different than marketing. It's product marketing manager by title, but we do have a brand team, so I work with the brand team um, for the products. But my main job is a lot of product development and a lot of product management, working with our major accounts, sales, stuff like that. Just getting us into additional spaces, educating people on, what Speedball can do for them. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So it's a lot of it is more so not necessarily, like I said, the marketing, but more of just, listening to artists, listening to the clay community, trying to find ways to fill those gaps, solve problems, and still reach out. And now I get to help sponsor other artists like I was sponsored. So that's really
And
cool.
I've always thought that Speedball has done a truly fantastic job at stepping in and nurturing community with artists, no matter what. I mean, there has to be some level of technical ability, but not necessarily like notoriety that you'll find with some other brands or in other industries where they tend to like adopt or nurture relationships with like the really popular folks. Speedball has, I feel like, always put an emphasis on connecting with artists where they are, no matter like how many people are following them per se. But what part does community cultivation play within what you do there or what Speedball's mission is?
Just it's huge. That's how, but even before I got to Speedball, that's how we'll just say Speedball ceramics, but we do it across all the different types of media and art forms that we support. But just Speedball ceramics, like that is purely how the category got built. That's how we got to where we are now. And we're still growing. It's by listening to the community. It's by just going out to the artists, doing the surveys. hey, what do you guys want to see? Like, what is, we have plastic bats. What are some of the colors that you like? Like the mid-fire line that's been hugely successful. Thank you everybody. Like, but everybody played a big role in that. If you were at NCCA in Cincinnati, you stopped by our booth and we debuted them there and just asked like, hey, what do you think of these colors? What do you think we need to kind of go forth with? So it was very much informative of the community. The biggest one was the Underglaze reformulation. Like that was from years and years of feedback from the community. And finally it was like, yeah, we gotta switch this now to answer for this feedback.
What was that feedback you were getting, and what was the change you guys made based off of it?
So, and that was funny because that's the Underglaze is kind of how I got brought into Speedball. And so I had the same initial feedback like, hey, this doesn't work like other brands that I'm used to. Like it's a little bit thicker jar. What do I do? What do I do with this? And so it was really cool just being able to work directly with the chemist and the manager at the time. She just kind of helped me troubleshoot with it. And so that was it. It was really just our product was a lot thicker. It was geared towards other forms, like mainly screen printing. It was great for screen printing out of the jar.
Mm-hmm. It really
If
was.
you did anything else, excuse me, any other kind of app like regular standard brushing application, you had to modify it a little bit, which on one hand was great because then you could take that 16 ounces and stretch it
Really could.
like 32 ounces or more. You can really stretch it out by thinning it out, which I was doing. Like it would take me like a year to get through a pint, because I was thinning them down from my own, airbrushing and all that stuff. But it just got to a point where we were hearing it enough to where it's like, okay, this is actually an issue with the community. And even though we had people that were very, very loyal to the old formulation, it was okay. Well, you can still thicken it, but it was harder to thin it. So let's thin it. Let's answer for what the majority of the complaints were basically about the brand. Because once people unlocked the secret of it, they were like, "Yeah, this is wonderful. Oh, I love using it. It's just hard." And we listened a lot to the teaching community too. Damien was like, "I don't have time to prep this glaze to do what I need to do. Like, I need it to come out of the jar ready to go." So we kind of piled all that together and then made the decision to kind of just stop production, reset the entire line. And the community backed us so much. Like it was amazing. Like the clay community, everybody understood. It was like, do what you got to do to reformulate. We appreciate you, doing what you do. Cause as a business, you're always nervous about that. Like we're going to shut down production.
Right. That's big. That's a big decision to make, and then
You
change how it's going to function. Through the Clay King lens, we heard a lot of people talk about the reformulation because they would call in and they would ask, is your stock the new batch? Or we had even just like it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, the power in a retail store went out. And so we let shoppers come in and look
yeah,
through the warehouse. And we had these two old ladies. I don't want to say old ladies. They were two young, wonderful ladies come through the store, and they were going down the speedball aisle, and she was picking up every pint and shaking it. She goes, I can tell the difference. And she'll just shake it. And she would always pick the ones that I think at this point, like our whole stock was reformulated, but she was checking.
yeah. I mean, we still get people that ask if we have the old formulation.
That's what I came to Speedball because the underglazes could print. I could screen print with them. At the time, I was doing a lot of screen print transfers, and I had tried other brands, and they were super thin. I had to add a ton of medium into it, and the Speedball ones I could just pour out of the jar and print with. But it was, yeah, you're right. When I wanted to add or brush or do any other kind of technique, I had to modify it a good bit.
So it was like, all right, well, kind of which path do we want to go? And it looks like we picked the right path. So it's
Yeah,
been
I
good.
think so. I guess it does take time, though, hearing from enough people that this change is really going to affect the majority of people for the better. Because I can imagine Speedball coming from an industry that's primarily print oriented in its like initial phase, like having those thicker underglazes did serve a real purpose and was based on a history of products that were successful.
Yeah. But it's funny. It was like people were already using a speedball product to thicken other brands of underglazes. So it's like we already have we already have the transparent base that people are using anyway to thicken their glazes with screen printing. So we already had the answer within
That's
within
true.
our offering. So it's like, okay, hey, we have the solution for people once we switch, so it worked out. it was worked out. But again, that was, had the community not said it, we wouldn't have done it.
That's a good point. And it does make me think about how valuable the community is to brands like Speedball. I think I've worked with quite a few others, but Speedball, for the most part, like really does put a lot of emphasis in cultivation in the relationships they make with the artists they work with. I was curious from your perspective, how do you go about finding artists? Is this a path that you guys are hoping to continue to grow, like your artist network, or what is the development or future goals of that?
Oh, like I said earlier, now I'm one of the main people that does the outreach, that reaches out, and it's constant. It's constant. We are always looking for artists to support. And it's funny because I mean, I was really hesitant at first. My boss laughs at me because she's like, you fought it really hard, because it's I get it. Now I kind of understand. I mean, that's huge for a company like Speedball to reach out, especially with, you know, things aren't getting cheaper, right?
Right. Yep.
And then you have the artist's journey. We complain about the struggle, but we appreciate the struggle. It's like it's a part of our journey. It's a part of like, I can do this, I can do this. So you make the work and you get your budget. Well, I need to do this much so I can buy this much, more materials and this and that. And then all of a sudden you have a company come and say, hey, I would like to eliminate that major financial burden for you.
That's
And
huge.
it's the glazes. Like, don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's out of the blue. Like, it's not, it's just
I mean,
like, it's like, and so, being in a position to be able to do that now, like I said, the number one criteria, well, I wouldn't even say number one because it's not a criteria. Like, we don't care about your follower count. Like that's like when I first started getting sponsored, not that it matters, but I think I was below when I first
same.
getting sponsored by Speedball. Like that was not a criteria. And I asked like, well, what made you reach out to me then? And it was like, hey, you were using the square bats and we saw it in your pictures. We saw it in your reels. So we're like, hey, you're already using our product. We like the work that you're making. And I wasn't even using any Speedball glazes at the time. I was just using the clay boss and the bats. And it's, we like what you're doing. With the underglazes you're using, how about use our brand for that, and see if it works for you. And then from there, several years later, I'm now managing the category. Not saying that's going to happen for everybody we reach out to.
Sure. Yeah.
I like this job, but it's just yesterday, actually, I reached out to an artist on Instagram. Just called her. Like I met her in Isika, known her for a little bit, and it's just been watching. It's just gave her some samples during Isika. Let me know what you think. Just, I like your work. Like just, that's the only direction we give. Use this on your work. Outside of that, I don't care what you make. I just really think it's cool. I like what you're doing. And so we talked about that yesterday, and it's like, hey, let's continue to work this relationship. Let me know, send me a list of what you really want to try, and we'll send you that. And then if that works, then we work towards, like you said, the professional artist network that we have, where you're officially sponsored by Speedball going forward, until either party decides like, all right, this isn't working. But yeah, so it's like, and it's really one of those, like, we really want you to try it first. Like, don't just because it's free, like, no, like try it, work it. If you like it, if you don't like it, kind of like me, I give the honest feedback, and then it's like, okay, cool. And there's a lot of artists that is like, yeah, it's just not for me. That's great. Appreciate your feedback and stuff like that. Other artists is like, yeah, this is wonderful. And then we'll keep going from there. And then that's, we do the takeovers of the account, all that fun stuff. Just supporting cool artists, man. That's what it's all about.
One of the things that I remember the first time I came into contact with the Speedball team, although I've been familiar with their products for a long time, when I went to Nsika in, I think it was 2018 in Milwaukee. I think it was the first time I went with Clay King and talked to Kelly through a dinner. I can't remember if it was at dinner, but one of the artists that was with Speedball at the time was Kelsey Bowen, who was using the underglazes to make her just incredible sculptures and animal creatures. They're just out of this world. But Chris is the owner of Clay King, and he was in that same like little conversation bubble, and he was talking to Kelsey, and she showed him a picture of her, one of the biggest sculptures she had brought with her to Nsika, and he ended up buying it. And I remember her just being so like ecstatic, like, I can't believe this sold, because it was a huge sculpture. I can imagine it definitely impacted her monthly income. And just seeing the joy that the little trickle down effect of Speedballs working with this artist brings to Nsika this piece sells.
Yeah.
That artist journey, you say, it's right there. And it
Yeah.
really does impact.
Yeah. Kelsey's been with us a couple of Seekers now. Like it's great having her in the booth, and just supporting her journey, She's definitely part of the Speedball fam.
So that's the product side of how Speedball moves within artist networks and cultivates community. Where does Speedball come into play with the education side?
Oh, well, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just listening. Just listening. What do you and that was yeah, that was actually probably one of the largest comments that made us like stop all was like, I don't have the time to take your product and adjust it for my classes. And it was like, whoa, okay. We don't want academia, having issues. Cause that's a great, pipeline as far as like just product usage, product loyalty, um, thing, what you use in school is typically what you're going to look for once you graduate. So it's like, well, we gotta have a positive feeling of Speedball as people are going out of these institutions. And, a lot of instructors are artists too, so it's like, yeah, when you look at that and you look at, what teachers go through, that's to me, I've always loved teachers and appreciated what they do for us. So it's like, hey, like if we can make their life a little bit easier, both while they're in school and the limited time they have to work on their own work, like, okay, that's something we need to do. And then academia has been great for just testing different things that we'd like to do, like different bundles, like my alma mater. Like, hey, well, I'm kind of like Nike. I can send stuff to my old school and hook them up, like, or the University of Oregon type stuff. Yeah, I can now reach back to my alma mater and say, hey, I'm going to send you this kit. It's for every student in the ceramics program. Here's the kit. Let me know what you think about it. Does this work for like ceramic students and stuff like that? Or my kid's high school, like I'll go to his ceramic classes and talk to the class, bring them stuff, and be like, hey, how does this work at your level? Like, is this cool? So it's fun. We have those ties with academia. And then we ask like a lot of our major vendors and stuff, like what type of customer is buying this? And if they tell us this is academia is all over this, I mean, this is some of the feedback that we get from them. And then we take that back and we implement it the best we can.
Okay. So we've seen, based on artist feedback, community feedback, we've reformulated glazes, Underglazes. I've come out with the mid-fire line,
Yeah.
started playing around with colors on the bats, and introduced the boss base. What's next?
What's next? Man, really close, really soon. We're going to have some boss ribs. Cool new product. I don't want to go into it too much. It'll help with the centering process tremendously, I think. We think. So yeah, and if you've tested them, right?
I was going to ask how secretive or do we have to be here?
No, man, you've tested them, and I mean, what are your initial thoughts? And then I'll kind of get into the kind of the backstory.
Truthfully, I'm excited for them because it's a product that I can see and that lines up with the boss base in terms of like continuing the next step of what makes clay accessible to a variety of people, whether you are new and having a problem with a particular step, or if you're really experienced and you're having a particular problem with your hands or your wrists. And for me, as an artist, I was producing at such a output this past couple of years that I really started to hurt my wrists and my forearms and my elbows were feeling the wear and tear of putting out as many pots as I was making. And so the Boss Bites helped with that. And then the Boss Ribs, which I don't think we've described more than it'll help with centering.
Right.
They're, if I can describe them, they're
Yeah, go
almost
for it.
I liken them to, if you're familiar with watching like longboarding videos, the pucks that people put on their hands to like move down hills and like, but they're these ribs that strap to your hands and they really do help give more leverage when you're centering. It was really helpful for me. It would, I think in a production standpoint, unless you're encountering like the obstacle of pain being the limiting thing that keeps you from making, I could see them being tricky to like get off and get back on and like keep the flow of efficiency. But if that's not the limiting factor of like efficiency, but if you're coming from I struggle with centering, it's a very challenging aspect of making pots, or I don't want centering this really stiff clay to hurt my hands or wrists, then they do that function extremely well.
Yeah, it was so that was my aha moment with those was I had to make a bunch of pieces because we needed to test some stuff. I think I had a speckle buff clay body, and I needed to make some cups for testing for Speedball. And I didn't have a lot of time. And it's like, I pretty much got to make these like 2 day, 2 night. I went out there. I was like, okay, here's the clay. I was like, oh man, what I thought was a moist, ready to go bag was like, oh, this is a little rough. I was
We've
like,
all had those.
yeah, I was like, wedging is going to be tough. There's ways to quickly rehydrate the clay and all that. But I was like, man, I'm not trying to do that tonight. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to bear down. I know my wrists are going to be hurting tomorrow. But we're going to do this. And then I was like, whoa, I have the prototype of this tool sitting in the garage. I was like, I'm going to test out this prototype on this tougher clay. And yeah, it saved my night. Like that was wonderful. And that's a lot of, it goes back to our community outreach, right? So the boss ribs was a concept that was brought to us by an artist. So it was actually pitched to us at Ensika in Cincinnati, which was really cool. I think it was Cincinnati. Anyway, it was one of the Ensikas. We were there. We've been working it for a while. And actually, I think it was Virginia. It might have been Virginia's. Yeah. And so we're sitting there, and we was watching the pitch. The artist Jennifer Wilden from Carved in Mud Studios, she kind of pitched us the idea, showed us her concept. She brought some concept tools, and I try to keep the poker face. Like
Right.
while
Because
I'm
you can't let on too
in these
much. Like,
meetings, I'm just kind of like, might throw a couple of those, but in my head, I'm like, this could revolutionize the way we teach pottery going forward. Like this could be huge, and I could see it then. But again, it's just like, okay, well, that's a product that we really think can help. It's universal. That's usually what I tell people. Like, is it solving a problem in your studio, or is it solving problems in studios across the world? And then it was like, wow, that definitely is solving a problem, because centering is, if you can't get centering right, you will just have a hard time as a potter on the wheel. It's just,
that's the foundation.
it just is what it is. The better you can center, the better your pieces will be. And so I was like, wow, that solves that huge pain point. And I'm thinking, just like with the boss base solves that huge pain point of how thick is this bottom. So now it's like, man, if we can solve for centering, we've already solved for opening. Like, man, like this is pretty cool.
What's left?
And then it was just working with the artist back and forth. And unfortunately, the concept to shelf is not a quick process, so people got to understand, like, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, and we won't get into the eaches of the process, but it takes a while to just go from concept to shelf, right? There's a lot of steps there. So if you got an idea out there, just be patient. Just be patient, right? And so, yeah, but we worked with it. It's gone through, there was a second iteration. This third iteration is what we ended up going to market. And again, it was just like, how can we maximize it from what the concept was to, let's solve as many problems as we can. That's why the kit is the way the kit is. It's like, well, you can continue to use it to make the entire piece if you want, depending on your throwing style. So there's different things in there. How do we make it affordable? All that stuff goes into it, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the product manager, but I'm also a potter too. So it's like, well, I know what I'd pay. I know what I'd not pay. So
And
we kind
bouncing that threshold is important, because you're right. There is a threshold of that's nice, but
yeah,
and then how to position it in the right way to say that's nice. Wow, it's only, and okay, I'll get that.
yeah. And it's like, is it enough? Like, is that pain point enough to be solved for that? So that's how that kind of came about. It's just really tweaking it back and forth, working with the artists, and then we slowly started strategically saying, hey, you test this out. You test this out. Like, I took the second iteration, the second prototype, to a studio local in Statesville where Speedball is located at. Hey, what do you guys think? This is kind of a concept we're working on. It was a great evening because there was a lady, she was on her third class. It was a public studio, third class wheel throwing. Was doing well, but it always had problems with centering. So I was like, okay, well, this is a good test bed, because you kind of have the concept of what your hand should be doing to center. And I didn't demo it. I was like, I'm just going to give you this tool. Try to center with them, and she centered in less than 30 seconds, like without me telling her, and that was awesome. I was like, okay, we're really on to something here. And then I've tested it out with people who have never done pottery and had them centering. One lady could center perfectly in less than 3 minutes. She was centering. Like, every time I gave her a ball of clay, she strapped the ribs on, she'd center, grab the ball space, open it, and she was off to the races. So it's like, it's really cool. I know with like kind of like even with the ball space, we had a lot of people like, well, that's cheating, that's cheating, cheating. It's like, well, no, I can see how you can look at it that way because to become a potter on the wheel and proficient, it's a journey. I don't know too many neos that were able to just sit down and just unplug from the matrix and just go for it and do it.
Few
Right?
and far between.
It's tough. It's tough. It's the toughest art form I've ever tried to this day by far. But that's the point is, I mean, that's a great benefit of it is it does make the process a lot easier. But the main point of it is brings a lot more people into the community.
You're lowering that bar of entry of, oh, I have to learn how to do all of these things. And it's really difficult to learn all these things. Well, yeah, if you can take that away, then the amount of people who can come into the craft, it goes up exponentially.
Yeah. And so I'm like it. And then, you think academia, right? Right. No, I know at least in the county I'm in, it's not a huge ceramic program county, right? And the teachers they're having to teach a pottery block. Like this is the wheel throwing block, but I also have my drawing students. I have these students over here. I have the hand building students. I got to cover all this in my 50-minute class, but now it's like, again, you can speed up that process with these. If you get proficient at teaching students these, like you can have them center and open, really, really quick. And now you can focus on other stuff. So yeah, that's one of the benefits.
That would be a really good ad for teachers because in the few schools that I've been a part of, or my wife's an educator, so there's almost always I'll go in and talk with the art, or I'll visit the school that she's at and go in and teach a ceramic segmenter. And a lot of the teachers will avoid the wheel portion of the art program because they're not that great on the wheel, or it might take too long. And so you're right, that does solve a huge problem. And not just for the studio potter, but also for the educator.
Right. And it's like, and that's the thing too. I'm excited about like the date night pottery places, right? Like just
Mhm.
come get on the wheel, do a date night thing. Like, you'll have a lot because I've been in a couple of them, like as I'm visiting, granted it's a date night thing, or it's just this is a quick class thing. I've seen so many frustrated people at the wheels because they're just not getting it. They're like, but this is hard. I don't understand how to do this part, and it's
What
like,
starts as a date night turns into
right.
an argument night.
And then they're like, and then they just kind of walk away. But I'm like, well, what if there's a tool that can help people be successful off the bat? Make something really cool. It's not like it's going to make like an enormous amount of new potters in the market now. Everybody's opening up a pottery Etsy now or whatever, or
Mm.
Shopify, whatever. It's not going to do that because we all know there's a lot more to pottery than just being able to center and sustain it as a business, right? But what it will do is enhance that appreciation even more of the craft. Like, hey, I actually did make a bowl. That was pretty cool. So now when I go and I see more handmade stuff, I have a better appreciation of what it took to get that to that to that area. And appreciation means support, you know. So I think it'll enhance the support of artists out and potters out there they are trying to make a living at it. So I'd see nothing but upsides from it.
I'm excited to see what happens when everybody gets their hands on them and how it's going to play out over the next couple of years.
Yeah. We're excited. We're excited to see.
For those listening, we are in mid August 2025. When can we expect to see the first iterations of the Boss Ribs hit the shelves?
You'll see them with Clay King. Shout out to
Ooh,
Clay
yeah.
King for being our awesome launch partner. They will we'll see them in September 2025.
All right. So just a couple of weeks.
Just a
I'm
couple of
looking
weeks.
forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan.
So, as Speedball, do you find that that is the primary position that Speedball takes, is being able to lower the bar of entry into ceramics and support the people who are trying to appreciate it or like gain access into craft? How does Speedball's position for, aside from the professional artist network we've talked in the past, how did this focus follow the artist through their journey from beginner through to professional or educator or beyond beginner?
Yeah, it's all about quality products. Making quality products that you can use throughout your journey, wherever you're from beginner to experience. And that's what it's all about. I know that's just sound, oh, you're supposed to say that. Well, that's what it is. That's really what it is. Like there's I've turned down since I've been here. I just hit my 2-year mark at Speedball this month, August 2025. 2 years in the
Happy
seat, right?
anniversary.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I've turned down projects, you know, and I was joking with my boss Kelly the other day. I was like, yeah, I have enough, new product development ideas. I think that can take us to 2028 right now. That's the amount of ideas and products that we can go just from listening to the community and just paying attention and just seeing what are some of the needs out there. But it's not like we're just going to throw everything out there, and it's like, okay, well, that's a pretty good idea. You brought it to us. Let's put it in the process and let's see if it'll work. And they don't always work.
That leads me into where I wanted to go next is, do you have a filter funnel, so to speak, of how ideas make it through what ideas do you focus on? How do you
Well, does it solve a problem? And does it solve a problem more than just in your studio? And I can come back at a good project idea that I canceled, which was my own idea. And once I got in the seat, I think it was like 6 months into it, because I was pitching this idea before I officially started working for Speedball. Like, you guys need to do this. You guys need to do it. I don't understand why you're not doing this. But it was 100%, not 100%, but it was all, I was like this. This is what I am doing to make great work. Like, this is what you need to do. You should be making products that help people do this. But then once I got into it, it was like, well, that's not necessarily, at least today, universal in the ceramic community. And is it solving a problem? Not really. It's just a cool thing to have, And so it was like, well, okay, not really solving a problem. I'm not really relinquishing any pain points with this idea. It's just something I do as an artist in my studio.
now I'm on the edge of my seat wondering what the idea was.
Well, I was really all about, like, you need an airbrush kit system, like, you gotta have this system to do airbrushing, and it's like, well, okay, well, how many potters are airbrushing their work? That's it's you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a few, there's a handful out there doing
Yeah,
it,
they're out there.
more and more, right? Not let's make a product that we're gonna sell worldwide. Enough people,
That's
you
true.
know. So it was like, huh. Hmm, and then, so yeah, I was like that, at least in today's market, today's community, we don't need to pursue that right now. So it was like, all right, take your idea. It's not the worst idea. Let's shelve it. And then, there's the person itself that brings us the idea. I'll fully admit I've tanked the project because I didn't like the artist. Not like personally, I don't like you. It's just kind of talking with the artist. And it was really apparent it wasn't about helping the community. It wasn't about helping potters be better potters, bring people into the community. All that it was about, let's get this money. And it was like, well, that's not really what Speedball's about. Even when we price stuff, that's not what that's about. So it's like, so I had to let that project go. And then, but it also, with that project, it wasn't a universal pain point. It was, okay, this is a technique. That's a good technique. It is a great technique, but it's not, doesn't solve enough pain points to where we need to go forward. I mean, it was, let's consider this, let's consider that. What about this? We were working it, but then it was like, once it became like, all right, I'm just trying to make a big home run paycheck kind of thing, like, really concerned about expanding this product to help the maximum amount of people that could get it. It was like, all right, let's go, let's look at some other things. Good luck with your product and your idea. That's just not for Speedball. And still I give them ideas like, hey, this is what you can probably do, this, and this going forward. It just won't be with us, but here's some ideas. So, and that's kind of how that works. There's a couple of products right now that are in the queue that we're just, they do that. They solve a pain point, right? And so now it's just, is it universal? Yes. So I'm kind of excited about at least two of them right now. One in particular, I can't speak on it, but
That's what I
but it
hope for
meets
you.
that, like, it meets that criteria. Like, it solves a pain point. It's very universal. Anybody can use it, whether you're academia, lick studio, home studio. And now it's a matter of pricing. We got to get the product in the spot to where, like I said, will you pay for that? Would you pay for that? I don't know if I pay for that at that price point. So now it's like, let's get it at the price point that's fair to the consumer, fair to everybody involved. Because it's not like Yes, we do want you to make money from it, but we got to make sure at the end of the day, it's about the consumer. Is it fair for them to have to pay this to solve this pain point? And where's that kind of at? So we're still working those issues on that one. And so that one, we've been working that one since a year, been about a little over a year and a half working that idea. If it goes forward, that's something we'll probably see like probably holiday season 26 once we get it going. That's kind of how. So it's like, yeah, we started talking this in 24. You know,
It's always surprising how long it takes. Just, I mean, really for anything well done, it takes a long time.
and that's the key. It's like, well, like we could probably launch something next week. Like, all right, yeah, man, let's go for it. But now it's like, well, okay, we just kind of really we didn't look through everything. We didn't test it with the public good enough, you know, and that's really kind of where it's at. You know, it's like, so that's kind of my main things. If you have an idea that's universal, especially for us right now, like think accessibility. If it's universal, it solves a pain point, it's accessible, you have a good chance, at least at Speedball, gaining our ear and being like, okay, all right, let's look at that.
And if somebody does have a pain point that fixes the accessibility problems and it's a big enough problem for enough potters, would you be the person that somebody would contact to say, hey, I've got an idea?
If it's in ceramics, yeah, it's coming to me. You'll be sitting like this with me, either
Face to
virtually or in
face.
person. We're
Okay.
gonna talk it. We're gonna talk it through. You know, and it's like, all right, let's kind of see what your concept is. You know, and which is it's fun. It's fun for me because I am a potter too. So it's like, well, like the ball space, right? I was like, I helped Speedball launch the ball space. I wasn't fully on at the time. I kind of it was one of the first projects I was kind of being trained on, and like this is how we do things here. And I was like, yeah, I'll shoot some reels, help you launch it. It's not really a thing for me, but now it's like, yeah, I use it every single time, every single time. Like it doesn't make sense for me not to use it. I'm like, this is what I do now, you know? And so even with the boss ribs, it's the same thing. It's like, well, and by no means is that the criteria. It has to be something that I personally would use. That's not the criteria, you know, because I'll use the boss ribs. I don't foresee using them all the time, but I know,
Mhm.
like I said, when that clay was hard that night, like that saved a lot of pain. And then I've been actually thinking like, well, because I did a demo video because we did send them out. You were one of the artists we sent them out to. We sent out several sets, right? So I did a demo video for everybody. Like, these are the different ways you can use them, you know? And I was like, well, there probably is a configuration where I'll probably use one of those ribs almost every time. Cause I'm starting to think of how it just makes sense to save that wear and tear joints in my wrist. Like, wow. So why wouldn't I incorporate that now or wait until things start going bad to start using them? So
I'm guilty of not thinking about that before I should have started thinking about it. And I think I'm also guilty of having some level of pride in my skill of being able to do it without tools that are helpful. And the older I get, I think I'm realizing the limiting belief or mindset that is not using something that can help you create longer.
yes, yes.
Because that really is the name of the game as far as clay and longevity goes, is how long are you able to do this? Because it is a physically demanding craft, and
It is.
it takes a lot to be able to keep track of your body and use it in a way that is helpful long term.
And that's what when I first saw the concept for the boss ribs, I was like this can be a thing. Like this is, you know,
And knowing that, I mean, I'm speaking from the lens of being on the phone at Clay King for over a decade, talking to people, setting up their studios. And I've got to say, probably the majority of people that we talk to, I won't say majority, but a large portion of the pie are elderly people who are entering retirement. They're picking up clay. They have this extra free time. They're probably 60 plus, this demographic, and carpal tunnel, arthritis, wrist pain, like not having the strength in your arms or hands anymore. Like that is a big demographic of potters and people working with clay. And so I think that this will help. This will help
and
them.
it's not bulky. Fit in your
Right.
pocket. The thing I
Yeah.
like about it. I was like, this thing will fit in your pocket.
You throw
Like
it in
that,
your Sula bag.
throw it in your Hey Sula bag. That's good. That's it. Which was funny. Is like that's a criteria now. It's like not for everything, but it's like I go there pretty quick. I'm like, how does this fit in a Sula bag? Pretty good.
It's been so fun to see how Sula bags have just taken over the clay community as the go-to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got a couple in the background here. I'm gonna do some swagged out stuff for it. It's gonna be fun.
Are you going to modify them?
I'll just decorate. Just that I'm just gonna personalize them and have some fun, put some swag on them.
That'd be cool.
Be
I'm
cool.
excited to see this.
It'll be
When I talked to Hope and her episode's airing this coming Friday, I asked one of my interview questions was, "What's in your Sula bag right now?" And she got really excited and she pulled it out and it was literally covered in rhinestones. She was bedazzling it like it was a work in progress, but it was completely bedazzled. So I'm loving seeing how people are customizing theirs too.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna have some fun with it. I have a couple.
Hmm.
We'll have some fun.
That's cool. Well, speaking of Sula bags, what's in your Sula bag? Like, if we could put together the Delvin Goode like essential toolkit.
Essential toolkit. See, for me, it's almost like I need one for each phase of the process, man.
Okay,
But I mean, but you can get a lot in a Sula bag, so maybe
you
not.
can.
Maybe not. I would say I definitely need one for glazes. Like it'll just be underglaze, mid fires. We have some fluxes coming out. That's going to be awesome. So the fluxes will be in there. But just to kick things off, it'll definitely have some diamond core trimming tools. Definitely in the mix. Some mud tools got to be in there, like their
Oh,
ribs.
staples.
Yeah, you gotta have that in there. Gotta have a lot of your standard generic sponges. Yeah, man,
Oh, basic yellow.
I have some Kemper, just the standard, just trimmers. I just became a metal rib fanatic. For years, I never used those, and then John Hamilton came to the studio one day, and like he was like, "Yeah, this is how." I was like, "Dang, I usually like chuck that metal rib,
They're dangerous.
get it in a kit. Like that thing is usually at the bottom of the sludge bucket."
Sometimes it stays there until you reclaim, and then you find it
Yeah,
later.
it's usually where it's at. But I was like, okay, well now I'm like, that's pretty essential in my process now. So I was like, I gotta have that guy, for my own work and circuit preparation. Man, I'm like, wow, that solves a huge pain point for me early in the phase. Okay, I'll start using it. That's really it. Yeah, like it's definitely like, I mean, you can never have enough trimming tools, right?
No, you really can't.
You got to have all the ribs, you got to have all the trimming tools, and you got to have like 4 or 5 different kinds of sponges.
Yeah, no, you're
Definitely
right.
gotta have that. And then for me, I'd probably have like definitely a bunch of square bats. Probably have at least 6 square bats in there. Got to do that. All the colors. Can't have the same color. Like
Are you guys coming out with any new colors?
for the plastic bats, no, not unless the community says we need this color. Yeah, I'll just leave it at
Okay,
that.
that's
No,
fair.
I mean, no, it's probably not. Obviously not this year. We're not there yet this year. That might be a 27 thing. I do have some extension colors in mind. Just like like say the last ones that we did with the teal, the purple, and the pink. Like that was the community.
Got it.
That was the
I love the
community.
purple.
Like we did a survey, and that's what the community picked. So it was like these are the next 3 colors.
I love that.
And there was a couple of honorable mentions in there. And so the honorable mentions is what we're looking at
I see.
next.
I'm excited to see what's coming out the Speedball pipeline over the next couple of years. And it sounds like the boss ribs are going to solve a big problem. This was the first time I've heard about the fluxes, so I'm equally excited.
Yep.
And then,
Yep. Fluxes are coming. Those will be November, December-ish this year, 2025.
okay. Oh, so that's coming up. I mean, that'll be
Yeah.
here before we know it.
Yeah, they're coming. We'll start advertising for that here shortly. I can only speak on the stuff that's approved. So.
That's fair.
So the fluxes are approved. So those are definitely coming out. The boss ribs approved. Those are coming really, really quick. Everything else is still in the process of, and we do get that, and that's the thing. Like you can't please everybody, right? And so when you do launch something, there's always going to be, it's inevitable. You're going to have issues. Some people are going to have issues, not going to work for them and stuff. And that's a part of the reason why the process takes so long is you try to solve for that stuff as long as you can, as much time as you can before you launch it, but you're not going to get it perfect. So there's a fine balance. Like eventually you just got to be like, and it's the same thing with the boss ribs. It was like, well, we could continue. We could tweak this. We can tweak that. Well, what about this? Well, eventually you got to be like, we're launching. Either you're launching or you're not.
Because you could refine and refine and refine, and it would never be good enough or solve everybody's problem. So you're right. Eventually, if you want to do anything, you just have to send it.
Yeah. Once we get it to a good spot, like it's in a really great spot, let's go. Let's launch. And then for the community will let us know what to do with that product going forward.
Okay.
And if it's just like everybody likes the bats, hey, the bats are cool. Only feedback we ever get from the bats is what's the next colors? I
Hmm.
really like these colors. You guys should come out with this color. And it's like, okay, all right. So it's like cool. It's like we are listening with the boss base. Like, hey, you guys should do this. You guys should do that. It's not like we're just like, yeah, yeah. But we hear it. We hear you. We hear you. It's
It
just a
takes
matter.
time.
It takes time. There's a bandwidth. There's only so many of us at Speedball. So it's like we got to kind of pick and choose. But, definitely, we have some glazes we're working on. So we're excited about that. That'll be hopefully a good year for glazes from Speedball in 2026.
I've thoroughly enjoyed everything that's come out this year. This one is actually a Speedball glaze. We're hosting a Hobbit tea party in a couple of
Oh,
weeks, and so we're making some like yellows and greens. And I used this biscotti and the Basque green and the Prussian jade. I don't know. You probably didn't have Hobbit themed tankards and teapots in mind when you made them, but they're serving my purposes really well.
oh yeah, man. Yeah, that's been one of the fun perks of the job. Like I get to use these glazes way before anybody else. And
Hmm.
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun working. Our chemist is absolutely amazing. I credit him for all of this stuff, because I tell him some crazy things sometimes. Like I needed to do this. In like less than 48 hours. It's usually 24 hours, less than 24 hours. He's mixed it, he's researched it, mixed it, fired it, and he's sending me a picture of it.
That's impressive.
He's like, "What do you think of that?"
That's not a small feat.
No, no, it's not. And it's just like, wow, man. It's like so with the fluxes, it was like, okay, hey, we need I think we need to get in the flux. He's like, okay, and he just goes and he looks it up. And I was like, this is kind of I want to do three, and this is kind of how I want them to look. 48 hours later, here are your three examples. It's like, and they're in the mail. Because I'm in Arizona, Speedball's in North Carolina. So it's like, and they're in the mail. And then I get them and then we talk hey, how have you fired it? What cone did you do? This is the cone I did. This is my results. But Clay, we're going through all of that. Me and him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then once we get that in a good spot, then it's like, okay, now we need to send this out to other artists, and say, hey, we think this is good. What do you think? Kind of thing. And that's how we come out with these lines. Cause we do get a comment sometimes like, did you even test these things? Did you do this, do that? I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Believe it or not,
yeah.
probably quite a bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't test every clay body. Like we can't. It's impossible. I wish that was my job. Just this is my clay for today, and this we just go with it. But it is tested on a lot of clay bodies. Like there's a lot of testing behind the scenes. A lot of kilns going off almost daily,
I can't imagine.
just to tweak these things.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground. There been any topics that we haven't touched on that you were particularly excited to talk about?
Yeah, we did cover a lot of ground. You know, I mean, I can reiterate some points you're as an artist, right? If you're on any platform, if you choose to be, you're being watched. Like you're being watched. Like people are watching, businesses are watching, and a lot of people ask me, well, how can I get sponsored by Speedball? Like, how can that, and it's like, well, show your work. Cause that's the first thing. I don't know. I can't reach out to you and try to sponsor your work if you're not showing your work. Um, so yeah, that's kind of a thing. So we got to kind of see what you're doing, and I don't like. There's amazing artists out there that I will never contact from Speedball, and it's just because you are ingrained in that product, and you're doing great with that product. So that's cool. I'll still follow you. I'll still like and all that stuff. You don't have to be. It's like yeah. So and then there's that, and then this, your page is your page, your platform is your platform. You got to be cognizant of what you're posting to,
It's fair.
outside of your artwork. So if you want companies to kind of back you, any of them, you gotta have to be kind of cognizant of that too, of what you're using your platform for, because that's a big thing. So it's like we got to see your work. You need to be conscious of your content or your holistic content. That'll help you get more noticed. And it's not like you got to tag everybody and do all that stuff. It helps. It helps to get the attention of the business for sure. It helps. It's like Speedball. Yeah, I mean, most of I think because you got to battle the algorithm and
Yeah,
stuff
you
like
do.
that too. And that's a good way to get the attention of anybody. Like I used to do it, like tag them, and I still do it from time to time. Like, hey, I'll tag you in this. Like, this is cool, just to kind of see and just kind of let them know, hey, I'm using your product. I think it's cool. Nothing wrong with doing that at all. Once or twice, a couple times, whatever. Just don't make every post like that because then your followers, your followers will kind of be like, okay, look at what you're trying to do. We see what you're trying to do. But there's nothing wrong with using somebody's product, liking it, and just tagging them on your post like that. If they're smart, they at least see it. Hopefully the algorithm shoots it to them. Somebody on that team sees it and you're at least on the radar. Like there's people I'm watching right now that have no clue I'm watching their feed, which is cool. Like, it's just like, all right, I'm watching it. I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm waiting to see if our products work for that artist.
Always watching.
I pay attention when I see a boss base in a video, when I see a colored bat in a video. Yeah, that catches whether I follow you or not, like that catches my attention. Like, okay, well, I need to follow this person, one as a Speedball representative and one as an artist. It's
I
like,
do
oh,
the same. So running Clay King social, I've always done the same. If anybody tags Clay King and says like, "Hey, love how fast you guys ship," like it immediately. Like there's just these little like antenna that are out in the social media realm that somebody says something or makes a post in that regard, like the antenna starts
yeah.
pinging.
And I think a lot of people, when we get asked questions when we're trying to see if somebody works for our professional artist network, they're always
Mhm.
like, well, do I have to solely use Speedball? It's like, no. No. Like, were you solely using Speedball before we contacted you? It's like, and I get it. I get it because some institutions are like that, and it's
Mhm.
like me personally, I use only Speedball. And I've had friends that talk to me about that. Do you think you're limiting your artwork because you only use Speedball? And I'm like, well, at the same time, I manage the category. So it's like, I got to make sure I could use the stuff, every now and again, I'll slide over to some of the competitors.
I won't tell anybody.
There's a couple of glazes. It's just, man, that's a cool glaze right there. That copper adventurine is awesome.
I remember I think that was one of the things I most appreciated the first time I started working with Speedball is well, I was throwing everything on an old Brent and I was really concerned at first of like, do you guys mind that I'm using another wheel? And Kelly was like, no, not at all. Not at all.
Nah, there's room for all of us, man. There's room for all of us. I'm testing other brands right now on my. I mean, it's easier if we don't particularly make that type, but I'll still do it from time to time. And it's like hurts a little bit, but sometimes for the art, you
Yeah.
gotta go. You gotta go with the
Artist
right.
first.
You gotta. I was
Artist
like,
first.
hey, this I actually need this for that. So yeah. So it's like if that I was never held to that standard, how can I now turn around and do that? Man, we just don't do that because it's funny enough, one of the things I've been looking at lately is that frozen pond technique. It's really
Yes.
cool. But the people who have nailed it and dialed that technique down, they're using multiple brands to make that.
Well, yeah. And
So
that's the reality of studios is you're going to have your Amico, you're going to have your Mako, you're going to have your Speedball. And it's not, I have yet to encounter a studio that has been like, no, we only have X.
right, right, because they're gonna. And so that's really. I was like, I just want to get some of my glazes in that process. Just get one of them in there, one of them layers on that pond. Like throw some Speedball in there. I think it'd be really cool. But again, some of the artists that are doing that right now, like we're watching. It's like that artist, they haven't used anything Speedball, but it's like, that's really cool what you're doing with these other brands. Maybe we'll reach out and say, hey, would you try our stuff with that? Why not? And then that can lead into something really cool or not. But
Mm-hmm.
hey, we sent them some free stuff. They tested it. They had some fun. It might turn into a future pan artist or whatever. It's just something cool. It's like, hey, that's kind of how it all works in a way.
I can imagine it's really fun to be in that position, to be aware of the people you're observing and being inspired by and checking out. They have no clue.
No, no, but it's one of those things. Like even with my own personal work, it always it's always humbling at like big shows like at Sika or PlayCon West when I meet people who say I follow your work, and it's like, oh man, like this is not a work, love what you do, and it's like, wow, like because I pay a lot of attention to who follows, who likes, and stuff like that. But it's one of those things. It's like a lot of times those people when we get to talking and hey, what's your Instagram? What's this? What's that? And it's like I find it funny a lot of times. Sometimes people aren't even following me, but they know me as an artist, and so it's like that's even more drives in that point. Like even if you're not getting the followers, you're still being watched. You still have fans out there. You still have people that appreciate your work, and you just never know, you
That's right.
know?
Well, I mean, just with social nowadays, it's you don't have to follow people to be able just to get them in your feed every now and then too.
Yep.
I've noticed when I follow people, sometimes I see less of their work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly that has been happening. Yeah. And then I have to go back. Like I've almost started like a journal sometimes of like, I need to go look back at this person's feed. I really like their stuff, and then they'll pop up that one random time and they've got like 20 posts that I've never seen. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
like.
I got to go back.
I got oh, like so it's really cool to see that. And, as an artist personally, I get a lot of opportunities all the time. All the time. Get a lot of opportunities to display my work, send my work off. And a lot of these places aren't following me, but they're watching. They're watching my feed, they're watching my work, they're watching my content, and they're like, hey, we'd like for you to be in our show coming up, yada yada yada. Okay, cool.
So, in line with your work, that brings me around to a topic that I don't think we've had the chance to cover that I had a personal interest to ask you. Why candy? What is it about the parody of candy wrappers that seems to be the thing that you want to represent?
I call it the oh man. Really how it started was I was in a show at Northern Clay Center a few years back. And I was a representative artist in the American Pottery Festival, which I am again this year, but it ties together. So a couple of years back when I was in American Pottery Festival, they had a pre-show, like one of the first shows in the year was called Fandom. And you just had to pick a topic and then just go all in with that topic, right? And so a couple of years ago, I was like, I'll do candy. Like just cause it's just something different. I was really refining my stenciling techniques and all that. So it was like, well, I love pop art. There's always bright colors on candy wrappers. Like, I'm full in using Speedball at this point. Like wanted to use every color I could find. So I was like, yeah, let's do the candy stuff. Like it'll be kind of cool. It'll be fun. It's fresh. Hugely successful, right? That show, like candy pieces, like almost sold out. Like it was great. And it stuck, right? It wasn't like an intentional, like I want to be known as the candy guy, but it just kind of,
Candyman?
it's a candy man, right? And it just kind of stuck. Oh, he just gave me an idea for a new series. That's what's up. Appreciate you, Will. Appreciate
I got
you.
you.
and and so yeah, it just kind of stuck. And then it was fun. So I just kept doing more and more candy pieces. And then that's just kind of what people were asking for. Like the galleries were asking for it. Like, hey, we really liked how you did this candy work. Like it fits this show. It fits this thing. It's like, okay. And then this year, I'm in American Pottery Festival again for 2025. And the theme of the show is candy.
That's funny.
So it's like, well, all right. I guess
Might as well.
I'm doing a bunch of candy work,
Twist
and
my
again,
arm.
it's fun, it's fun to do, but I'm trying to come up, with just more designs and all that stuff all the time. So that's why.
Okay. I like it. I've had this so the warehouse at Clay King is off limits 9 times out of 10 because insurance, everything. But the like I mentioned before, when the retail store power went out, we had to let some people in, turn that into a social media video. And we had so many people comment to say, like, I would give anything to shop the warehouse. It's put in my head like the Willy Wonka factory opening up. And I've really wanted to do a marketing campaign where we send out golden tickets or
Um,
do some kind of like surprise ticket campaign. And maybe we could, if you're open to it, if the timing works out, make like a Delvin Good candy bar, the golden ticket wrapper.
to do this.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 That would be
Okay.
cool. That would be cool. And I would be a contestant too. I would definitely try to win.
Absolutely.
No, I've been there before actually. And it is as amazing as you say it is. It is cool.
It might be a little messy. There might be a lot of stuff kind of pushed in the corners, but it really is like a Potter's candy store.
Yeah, it is just I think the key with that is when you see it and then you meet the people
Mm-hmm.
who the warehouse, and then when you realize how quickly Clay King ships your orders out,
It's so fast.
it is impressive. It is wow.
And I tell everybody that I talk to directly about this, it is like solely 2 people that are responsible for that speed.
Okay, it's amazing.
I was filming just some ad or social content, and I asked Holly, who are the main warehouse packer, and I was like, "Can you mind if I just record you for a little bit while you're packing up?" And she goes, "No," and she's just like, the rate of packing, like I couldn't keep up. I was like, by the time I had switched my angle of recording, she had already boxed and taped and put the packing slip in and sent it off to be labeled. It's
Yeah,
unreal.
yeah, it's impressive. So I was excited. I was excited when we was there. I soaked it all in. This is this is really cool.
Delvin, is there anything else that we can talk about or point our listeners towards as far as Speedball goes and ways that Speedball can help advance all their artistic endeavors?
Well, I mean, we have really great customer service folks. They're very experienced in answering a lot of ceramic questions. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me direct. Like all the really good questions usually get to me from customer service, and I love it. I love answering those questions for people. And if you haven't tried Speedball before, give Speedball a try. We typically point people to Clay King when they ask us, well, what's a good spot to get it. We usually say Clay King is usually number one. Like, yeah, you can go to Clay King. Sometimes I'll ask, okay, where do you live in the country and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah, it's just we all highly recommend. Like I said, it's cool. They really Wonka ideas. That's pretty awesome. I hope it becomes a thing, right?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, but just keep playing. Just keep doing cool stuff. Tag us in your work. Just let us know you're out there, and just come see us at these shows and stuff. That's the most fun part.
Agreed. That is a really cool part about going to the in-person workshops or conferences. Just being able to see the people behind the products, behind the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. I always encourage people just reach out, give us a try everybody. And I think a lot of people are shocked. Now I'll just leave on that note. Like I don't always recommend our brand. You got to find what's right for you as an artist. Like I said, there's a lot of artists I'll just never reach out to because they found their way. I would love if Speedball products is your way, but I mean, if we could be a part of your journey, amazing. But just keep exploring. Try everybody's stuff. You'll get there. And don't limit yourself. And then if you have a cool idea that you think will benefit the ceramic community and you want to talk to us about it, let's talk.
Very cool. Well, Devin, thank you so much for all you do for the artistic community as a whole, or what you do through Speedball. It can't be understated how valuable it is, and really appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time to chat.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely.